Welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon King. I do appreciate you for tuning on in, especially a day like this, tuning in because it's preseason. It's a post-game discussion on a preseason game that you lost. I know that might not be the most virulent of turning out of audience members of that time, but we had a great turnaround today during the game, so I understand that. And I still want to talk a little bit about this football game. This was one where you saw a heavy dose of your Seattle Seahawks running out a lot of their third and fourth and fifth stringers, depending on the type of position that you want to go and take a look at. You're into the depths at this point of your depth chart and what you were running out there. I had heard rumors that I don't even know if McDonald was even really calling the game fully in this game as far as a play caller goes. It could have been dirty, could have been some of Carl Scott on the other side of it, sounds like. You were running a lot of vanilla stuff up front. So when you come to collective views of the team coming out of preseason games like this, it's always shaky ground anyway, and especially when you can kind of build up the case of some disparate factors coming in that make it even more so that way. I think given takeaways are you see in Sam Howell the growth and developments that's there. It's a case study till you walk in and you look at Sam Howell in those first couple of drives, and if your view of Sam Howell is that you're down on him, and those first two drives confirm that. And to the point of confirming that, they confirm it because that is the bad Howell that you typically will see when Howell is not good. Not feeling the pass rush, not reading things, not just having a feeling on what he's clearly seeing out there in the field. So you have that going down like that, and then you also at the same time have a couple of other good things happening. The running game, McIntosh going well. I lost my train of thought there with the Howell thing, but he was good on the other side of it. He rounded out after those first two drives and found his footing. 3 straight drives of scoring drives, including the 38 seconds getting the ball up the football field. Very, 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 very impressive on his part of it. So Howell, I thought, showed you why the Hawks invested in their draft capital here so far this preseason. Let's throw out the practices where there have been some bad reviews on him and where the outlook has not been as stellar. Lock in just here on him and what he's done in these 2 games. Has there been some bad stuff where it's not been clean, perfect, true? Sure. Has there been plenty of other good things, though, in there that show you some of the indicators why this team was a little bit excited on what they saw with him? It's not to guarantee he's a quarterback of the future, or that he's certainly a quarterback of the future, or that this should be something that's taken as a sign of that, but why there is a hopeful nature that potential future exists. And that's a little bit of what you saw, I think, from him today. McIntosh ran strong, ran solid. He is everything of what you saw from him in college you've seen so far from him in these past 2 games. He runs bigger than his size. He runs well behind his pads. He finishes runs. He's got some shiftiness in the open field. He had even a little baby stiff arm in this game that he dropped and delivered, which was very impressive to see, which broke him out for a 5-yard gain on something that could have been snuffed out in the backfield. I thought he was very impressive in what he brought to the table from his end of it as well. So McIntosh out there running strong. The other backs that were out there didn't have much room to work with, I didn't think. Receivers did what they were supposed to do. Running defense at the end of the day gave up 16 points. Was there a little more yardage in this game than that last week? Was it not the dominant performance of last week? Sure. Was there some more clean, free, and easy yards, especially in the passing game? Definitely. More of a test to have a Mason Rudolph throwing it back there than those backups last week. Malik Willis, probably more of a test than those backups that you had to face last week as well. And you saw that today in both those guys having some different levels of success when they went out there and played as they're flopping them back and forth, which, doesn't make it easy either when you just keep having them going back and forth series to series, those quarterbacks kind of flopping in and out. But this is a little bit of what I chalk up to that 3rd and 4th string. You're looking at who's in coverage at that time, and it's guys that would be the far man you'd call upon on the depth chart if you were having to go to them, if that was going to be the way that this was going to play out. And so not going to get too overly freaked out by 222 yards over the course of a game with 3rd and 4th stringers out there. And considering his only 16 points and only 1 touchdown, I think that the defense still gives you some encouragement to come away from with this. And at the end of the day, when it comes to looking at this preseason and trying to have takeaways to the regular season, we stand here now looking at this preseason, and do we push from this preseason saying there's an ultimate determination I can make about what's going to happen this upcoming year? No. Do we go forward and say, can I feel more about this one way than I did about this the other way? What I mean by that is, if I walked into this year going, well, historically speaking, if I get a coach that is new and he's coming in for a coach who's been there for well over a decade and he's onboarding these 2 new schemes and it's going to take all this time, I think that's going to take a year. We're going to need a year on this one. Versus if a guy can come in and hit the ground running and be good instantaneously. And I think that it's the big question mark into this year coming up is which reality are we going to be faced with this year? I think the preseason's informed us just a little bit on it being much more. Let's just try to be unbiased here. A little more likely if the needle's drawn to the middle line at the start of this, the needle is pushed a little over into the line of much better chance of success going into this regular season, what we've seen on preseason, and not for the end results of being 1-1, not for taking these 2 Titans to the brink on the road, and not for that, but for the parts of the team that we need to develop and grow, for the health maintaining on the front end that we wanted to see. These are the things going in tandem to me that give me much more encouragement. A McIntosh fitting into the 3rd role and Holani behind him in the 4th role. Some of the depth on the offensive line that we're seeing on wide display because our depth is basically starting. It looks good. The depth on the defensive line. Mike Morris getting done. Derek Hall coming forward in a big way. Worried about the inside linebacker depth coming into this year. Radigan's look good. Tyrese Knight is going to be maybe for the second straight week, your highest graded defender by PFF. He played that well. And O'Connell, he made his share of plays out there as well, I thought. So now the inside linebacker position starts to maybe look just a tiny bit better as well. Just the needle moves just a little bit more to that side of things. And so I do take away that encouragement. I think that's what we should more than pull back on from this preseason, and good overall performance by our Seattle Seahawks when it was all said and done and kind of all bore out. Really, a couple of smaller item guys just to speak about. Laviska Shenault's going to have a role in this team. It's going to be a good role. He's going to be very efficient, I will guess, in that role. You saw a little bit of what he brings, which is kind of a Deebo Samuel light. Deebo Samuel light. Think of it like that. Gives you just a little bit of that. Marquise Blair got a lot of tackles in this game. Had a tackle for loss at the end. That was a big play at the time when you needed it. He's trying to make his way on the roster, and he's fighting it out, I think, with Kobe Bryant. They're duking it out, depending on whether or not the team keeps 6 or 5 cornerbacks or 4 or 5 safeties. But I thought he played pretty well as well. Mike Morris, like I said, played a really solid overall game. Gave you the inside-outside versatility in there. And just overall encouraging performance for this team. So love to hear what you guys got to say on this. I think we saw some other negative things too, which we won't dwell upon too much, but we're all crossing our fingers when it comes to Jason Myers this year. Somebody say a prayer. Don't know what we're going to get from him. And PJ Walker, definitely don't want to get to the 3rd quarterback on this team. Doesn't look like was as a functional state here so far this year to start things off as he was last year out there with Cleveland when they did call upon him. Not that you're expecting him to be great, but just functional. Especially surprising to not see him at all try to at times use his legs. Kind of just becoming stagnant in the pocket. Receivers held the line though. See where you guys are at. I might be just doing a quick one here tonight too, because I know a lot of people are still on vacation and it's preseason games, so I get it. Daniel, Barry Sports Highlight, how you doing? Happy Saturday, everyone, he says. Megan says, at the park with Ollie. Not sure if I'll be back. No worries there, Megan. Robert, good evening. Good to see you, brother. Kevin says, yo. You know, McDonald is playing with these teams. Guaranteed our scheme is a 180 to what we saw today. Well, to your point on this, I think when I looked at this defense today and tried to think about my thoughts coming away from it, Kevin, I thought, wow, that defense looked a lot into that second half, especially like a Coach Carroll defense. You're rushing your front 4. You're dropping back into kind of soft coverages. I'm not even so sure. I'll have to see on the All-22 of how much they were really truly changing their coverages post-snap versus pre-snap. Because it seemed to me a little bit like they were keeping their coverages kind of similar pre to post-snap. This is all to your point, by the way, of some of the vanilla-ness of what we were running out there today. And then when you did run the blitz, it would be a 5-man blitz. So you'd just be sending one extra guy, and then you end up with 5 offensive linemen blocking 5 defensive linemen. And so you don't really accomplish anything with the blitz, especially if they keep the running back in there, and now you have 6 on 5, and the quarterback can have all day to throw at that point, and you've removed one other guy from coverage. And that would be, again, another thing that we'd kind of see sometimes last year. And you saw it today, and that's not normally something exactly of what you would see from a McDonald's scheme. And I think they did do very infrequent stuff. That's the tried and true stuff of what we will see come game one of playing, especially rookie Bo Nix when we play him. I think they're going to throw the house at him. And I guess McDonald's just wants to keep the cards close to the vest with this and not want to show anything. And this maybe, to my mind at least, speaks to the confidence he has in instilling his scheme. Because I would have thought coming into this preseason, we would have saw a lot more action on this level of things, of him mixing stuff up and trying stuff out and seeing what his guys could do. And it seems more like he has this confidence. I know what they can do. I'm doing that in practice. I'm doing it over here. Probably did a lot of it during this Titans week practice. And then he just goes, I'm not showing anybody anything. I'm not putting anything on camera. So I do agree, though. I don't think it's going to look like this. Not like it the first two games. And it's saying something that you've kept both the two teams today under 20, Chargers under 10, when you've been this vanilla and basic. Speaks to maybe some of the general strength of the crust of this defense and its fundamentals. Kevin says, and how in the hell did Carroll and Waldron never utilize McIntosh once? Absolute criminal. Took us this long to see him shine. Last year, at the final scrimmage game, the inter-squad game at Lumen Field in August, Kevin, nearing the end of the game, McIntosh went down and he twisted his knee badly. And that knee injury seemed to have followed him then through the whole season. And then they had him ready by the end of the year for the Cardinal game. He was prepping, I believe, to play in that game. And then injured his hand. So he ended up hurting his hand that week of practice, knocked him out, and then they couldn't play it. So I think injury was the full reasoning. Hoop Craze. The reason our defense was so bad was because we had Carl Scott calling plays, who was part of Pete's staff. There, maybe a reason why it looked a little bit like the Pete stuff, Hoop Craze, right? Maybe there's a little bit of a good explanation on that one as to why that one went in that direction. Because that's what it looked like to me too. It looked like you were just dropping into sort of cover 3, cover 6, and you weren't really mixing it up prior to the snap, post snap. And the pressure fronts weren't very exotic when you did run them. You could see them coming from a mile away, and it's 4 stringers at that point, but the play calling was notable from that side of it. That's good to confirm. I'd heard somebody earlier, Hoop Crazy, who said that was the case. It's good to hear that's the confirmation on that. David Kimber, the joint practices were much more telling than this pointless game. Probably so at the end of the day, yeah. I think there's a little bit of you shot your wad a little bit during practices this week, probably, as far as some of the intensity level. Maybe on both sides, which is why we saw a little bit of sloppiness and some kind of general malaise through both teams through big portions of this game. But good work getting in is what you hope at the end of the day between this preseason and the practices. You're hoping for that extra little hardened shell that you can supply and forge by doing this. And it does sound like we at least did all we could to cause that to happen, and there weren't any major injuries or fights, which is usually what you sometimes get on the other side of that, which is good to see. Megan says, I'll light a candle for Myers when I'm next in church. Please do, Megan. He needs it this year. God help him. I'm trying to keep the fans back. I'm the sheriff in town right now, trying to keep the town from going and lynching the guy. You know? I'm trying to hold him back here. Like, can you help me, please? He's over there firing wantonly into the crowd as they're charging him. Stop it! Stop! Jason, stop! He's over there just, it's inevitable anyway, man. They're going to come for me anyway, man. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. But Jason needs to get turned around. You're too well paid to miss extra points. I know they took it down to the 15, but it's neither here nor there. Good. Catalyst, how you doing, man? It's good to see you. Thanks for jumping in tonight. Tony Wright. Good evening, Brandon. with week number 2 of the preseason in the books, teams are getting themselves into shape. Your defense is going to be good this season, and so is ours. I really did like the trade of going out and getting Matthew Judon for you guys, Tony. I think he is. I think Judon is a really good addition to you guys to pair it up. I'd heard there's something going on with Braylon Trice. Hopefully it's not too major of an injury with him, because I think having the rotation is even better. But that gives you more of a certain guy coming off the edge for what he brings in combination with Ebiketie. And I do like the fact that your team says, hey, look, we made the move for Cousins here. All oars in the water. All cannons alit. You know, what are we holding back for? What are we holding on to the picks for? If we truly trust in this year to be successful and that this team is as good as it is, and we think it is, then let's throw that pick to the wind and get that pass rusher who will mightily improve this position from where it currently is at. I got to laud your Falcons for doing so. And it's a division that's wide open, and they are as in good position as anybody to go take that, and especially on the back of a move like this. Hoop Craze, were you on board with firing Pete or no? And who was your dream coach candidate? Yes. Yeah. I had arrived. There was a part of me that kicked in about after week 1 of that Rams game that was just chomping at the bit in the back of my brain. But by with a few weeks to go, and definitely by the end of the season, I was in a no moss mode, Hoop Craze, at that point. I couldn't do any more. It just got to the point where it was overload, and there was too many things staring us right dead in the face that were telling us that this was not going to improve, this was not going to fix itself, and something had to be done substantially to make this work. And so, yeah, I think, quite honestly, Hoop Crazy, 2 years ago, I was kind of already there. And Pete told me at that time that he's changing his schemes on both sides of the ball. Pete told me at that time that he had been arrogant in his ways and he was going to change, and then he didn't change for 2 years. So by that next 2 years, I was really, really at the end of the rope. Dream candidates. I believe Harbaugh was my number 1. Vrabel was, I think, my number 2. And then I had kind of a tie of Mike McDonald and Ben Johnson in there, kind of as a 3-ish. I felt like they were both kind of stacked in a similar spot. I'm glad. I'm loving that we got McDonald, though, Hoop Craze. He seems like in all of those guys now, maybe in retrospect, is even maybe the best candidate. I do think Harbaugh will get the road righted with San Diego or Los Angeles. His track record is just too good, and doing so in other stops. But we got a good one here. Tony, this is the most help that Grady Jarrett has had since he was in college at Clemson. That's saying a lot, and he's going into his 10th year. It's a big part of what helps out those defensive linemen, especially on those double teams, man. You know, Tony, is if you have a light defensive line or you just have one star in your defensive line, you just don't have the strength then to be able to combat the double teams that they can skewer towards your guy in order to, remove him from the game effectively at that point. Because most defenders, even the really good ones, get removed from the game if you can double them on the regular. And indeed, I think in recent years past, that's something that you could do with with Jarrett on that defensive line, because specifically the edges were just never really up to snuff enough, really. But now, yeah, you'll probably have teams, if they're going to double him, they're going to have to keep a running back in to chip one of the edges. So now you end up with 6-man protections, and that only helps the defense with one less man in coverage. Tighten down on those guys that are trying to get open out there. Definitely need the defense to take a step forward. Need Rook Aurora, the Clemson kid out there, to be I think a rotational piece in there. He doesn't have to be your starter. He doesn't have to be a number 1, but he's got to find his role in there. Be great if Brandon Dorless, the Oregon kid, could come forward for you guys and find his little kind of inside-outside role in there in that defense too. But I love it. I love when teams, Tony, you've been in here for many years and heard me talk about this. I like it when teams know themselves. Where are you currently at? Are you rebuilding? Should you be rebuilding? Do you think you're awesome, but you actually are kind of in between? Are you ascending? And the time is only to really just be patient and let your talent just naturally develop and grow. You've got to be as much as anything in the NFL, not only smart about the players you pick and the directions you go, but the self-assessment of where you are. And I like in Atlanta that they've made a stern self-assessment of this is where we're at. This is what we believe. This is who we believe we are to be, and we are going to, reinforce this with the moves that we make in tandem with that. That's a philosophy bearing out to decisions, picks you make, money you spend, trades you flip. But Grady should do pretty good. So far with him in the 10th year now, this one, Tony's, you got to start to kind of manage him a little bit too on those snap counts. Boy, Stan Grenade says, man, that final drive gave me Pete defense PTSD. Yeah, the final drive was kind of in that way. It's like soft zone, soft zone, soft zone, soft zone, soft zone. It's tough. Isaac says, Hawks Nest, what are we going to do with the money we save by cutting Myers and trading DK? Laugh my ass off. It's a good one. Hoop Craze, Mafia in the interior was really good today. Hope to see more of that. I think that there's a little wrinkle they have shown in the preseason so far that is one to watch, Hoop Craze, to your point on going into the regular season that will be a transition, that will transition, that's going to carry over. Last week, you had Boye Mafe lined up as what do you want to call him, a linebacker, a slot corner. He's in that alignment, basically, with that slot. And he's playing up, not in press, but he's a couple yards off ball directly across from the slot. Meanwhile, you have the four-man front inside. And so you think, how does the quarterback read that then? Because theoretically, the quarterback reads that as that's 5 down linemen by the personnel. Because Mafi's considered a D lineman, but he's off ball. He's in slot. So you kind of put a quarterback in a spot of kind of going, okay, well, how do I identify this guy here? How do I identify this guy in my progression read? And I think you saw that inform his post-snap because his final assessment, the quarterback there was, I have a mismatch with Mafe in the slot. Attack the slot. Slot ends up running a deep crosser. The safety, probably well aware that it's Mafe down there in coverage, is driving up and driving hard on the crosser, so that though the opening is coming underneath with the crosser with the trailer, the opening is there on him. The safeties, this is the well-coached defense, right? This is your back end talking to your front end. This is McDonald informing a safety in this moment of, we're going to dictate to the offense what they're going to do. So they're going to see the mismatch to this. If they run the route over into this section off of that mismatch, you need to be the drive on this. If it runs it up the field and they run the 9, we got a safety over the top to help out on the 9 on the other side of the field. But it's not going to Mafe's side of the field with the safety there. It's going to the other safety side. It's going to Kayvon Wallace's side of the field there, I believe, free safety side of the field on that one. So Kayvon's got to come drive up on that route. And you see Kayvon 2-3 steps before the kind of ball's even thrown, starting to get a giddy up on it. And that's why he comes over there and lays that hit. Tip ball, interception to Kobe Bryant. Set up in part by that Mafe in the slot. And then how then the quarterback's going, okay, I got 4 down linemen here, and then I've got Mafe over here in the slot. And then again, to yours today, the new wrinkle in today, Coop, and I agree this is where they're going to go with it, I think, into the season again. This is part of the moving guys everywhere. You have Mafe now as an inside linebacker pre-snap. 4 down linemen, how to read it. And then Mafe's coming downhill post-snap, attacking the guard with his quickness and finding a way into the backfield. Causing havoc. Blue Hawk 206, Blair, looking good at times. He's a good backup if we need him. He can get the job done. I feel very good about the safety depth. I think it's a solid signing on our part. I do believe we'll probably end up trying to slide him into the practice squad and then keep Kayvon Wallace and Brian on the roster and maybe the extra corner versus the extra safety. But he played good today. Vince, any concern McDonald won't go for 4th and 1 during the season to close out the game? Sorry if this has been answered already and I missed it. No, it hasn't come up actually as of yet. We didn't talk about it much. I was kind of making the case, Vince, for This is kind of to where, the new age analytics stuff, Vince, is all this go for it here. And you get guys like Dan Campbell that indoctrinate into this stuff and they go whole hog on it, where they're like, I'm going to listen to everything analytics tells me. And that's where you end up taking it to an extreme where you're like, slow down, Dan. It's to be utilized, though, as a tool and to try to take it into account. And I think that, I don't know what the stats would be. Somebody probably has it here in the chat, Vince, but I'm guessing that the analytic angle on this would push pretty heavily for you to go for it in that moment there. Because if you get the first down, you also close out the game. You also get yourself closer on the kick for Myers. First, you kick there, you put it back to the defense. And in general terms on this, I think the heart of what you're getting at is the thinking in theory here behind the pro offensive side of the modern age of the NFL. That the old thinking goes to coaches of, there's a minute and 30 left. I can trust my defense. They got to get all the way up the field and get the field goal to beat us. I can lean back on do that. And back in the day, you kind of could. But now it more feels like now I want to use the word easy peasy, Vince, but you get more of a feeling of it just is a lot more wide open for teams. That's not as much of a high degree of difficulty to get up that football field that quickly. We saw it in this game, how we had 38 seconds with Howell there at the half, and they were able to get there for a kick. The NFL game just now, with as much as you can really attack in the passing attack, sets itself up well to where that just, it isn't the dunk it once was to do that to teams. And if I'm McDonald there, I think looking back at this game and thinking about it, I would come back and go, maybe I rethink that and going for it there. And some of it's maybe him going, look, we haven't run the ball well. Our backups haven't pushed them off the line of scrimmage. I can't trust him to go get a yard right now. Valid. But in game, when you got your ones out there, when you got your starting offensive line out there, I'm a big believer in, I need to go get a yard. I need my offensive lineman to go find that. I need my offensive coordinator to have a play call in his sheet that can go get a yard. And if we can't get that, we don't deserve to win the game. Rather than let's put it on our defense's back to try to hold an offense down for a minute 38. Tony Borges Silva, thank you for the $5 donation, Tony. Just joined. What do you think of the game? PJ Walker is terrible. Let me do my Charles Barkley on that one, Tony, because you put terrible in there. So PJ Walker is terrible. It's terrible. Somebody get him a churro. That PJ Walker, he can't throw. PJ Walker. I don't like that PJ Walker. Terrible. Maybe you gotta move him to running back. He's the triple single. He says, I had higher expectations with his experience. Tony, I think you're valid. I think it's valid to have higher expectations. And because of that, like you say, number one, his experience. Number two, he's got the ability. I'm not saying he's got the ability to be a starter in this league, but he has the ability to be a backup in this league and to be a quality backup in this league. He was better last year, Tony, in the game against Cleveland. He came here in Cleveland and played a really strong game. They did a really well-organized attack to freeing him up and helping him in that game in the way that Grubb kind of went back there in the third quarter and was sort of like, I'm going to make you quarterback, rather than I'm going to lean into doing what PJ does well. And that's part of Walker not looking at his best in this game, but I still expect better. And he was out of sorts. He was misfiring badly. That one overthrow he had where there were three receivers in kind of a general area, I almost felt like he caught between throwing like all three of them at once, and he split the difference, Tony. The lack of using his legs through both of the first two preseason games, this is supposed to be a fairly hypermobile quarterback for the position. That kind of guy, if he's got issues in processing in the pocket, limitations as a thrower, needs to then use the scrambling ability, and not just when the games count. So I was expecting better from him. He looked lost. He looked like a rookie. We've seen guys like Holton Allers come in here and look more comfortable than PJ Walker did in this game. And you're right, that is discouraging, and I did expect better from him. I don't think you can just pass it off to poor pass protection. There were moments in there where he was just kind of playing it. Use the word brain dead on this, but just wasn't playing it particularly smart. In regards to the game, I think Howell's taken some at least tiny steps forward. He's making progress. McIntosh solidifies himself as the number 3. Your depth chart at the receiving core is strong at the top. Strong 2, 3, 4. And as we're seeing in this preseason, it's also pretty strong, it looks like, in the 5, 6, maybe 7 going down to the practice squad. Your backup offensive lineman, mixed bag there, Tony. Some ups, some downs, some guys playing out of position, like McClendon Curtis, who's a guard playing tackle. What's he going to do? What's a guy going to do there? Defensively, Tyrese Knight really looks like a good player and a guy that I think is going to come out really well graded by PFF in this game, and rightfully so. Other linebackers inside look good in this game too. Hall and Mike Morris, second-year guys, are taking steps forward in their game and looking better in their game. Secondary, a lot of light coverages, a lot of soft zone. Kind of unexciting in the secondary, to my eyes. Miles Adams played strong out there on the inside. A lot of the game today, too, on that side. Sharif, the kid, came back again this week and got another sack, and I thought he was active. Had a couple tackles in addition to it. So I thought he was pretty good. Kobe Bryant was around some action to get on some throws. We're very close. Seems like if that guy's going to play, and if he ends up playing for a full season, which I'm not saying I'm advocating for, but just his general thing he brings to the field is a magnet for footballs. That guy is always close when there's a ball around or a potential turnover to be had. It's odd to watch. It's cool. I don't know if it's just instinctive he has it or he's got the luck factor, you know. Maybe he's got a leprechaun hidden in his pad somewhere. I don't know what it is, but he finds the ball. Got the most of what I'd say from this game. Stands out on that. Mixed bag game, Tony. Tony. Tony says, then we turned around the next day and signed veteran free agent Justin Simmons. Now we have the best safety tandem in the NFL. Simmons, Jesse Bates. Love me some Jesse Bates. Simmons is still, I think, a pretty good player. I don't think you're getting prime necessarily Simmons. Part of the reason that he's not there with the Broncos anymore is I don't know if he's kind of the same player he was a couple years ago. But solid and an improvement over what you guys had, and another signing of a good indication of your Falcons doing what I'm advocating for, which is, all hands on deck. If there's a move that could be made that can improve our team in a year where we're going for it, then that should not be softly taken. That should be aggressively undertaken to try to make that happen. If you're in a rebuild year, if you're an ascending year, if you're a team you don't know what you have year, you don't move that aggressively forward in that way. Isaac says, to be clear, I credit Pete Carroll with bringing in John Schneider, and Schneider has done great from drafting to getting Mike McDonald. Even Gino credits Pete with encouraging him to continue playing. He's a legend. Yes, Pete's fingerprints are still on this team. Mike McDonald's coming in here and he's going to clean some things up and fix things that had been, left untended to for various reasons. But there's also the good side of things on this other end of it that Pete brought, and the culture he's established, the positive culture he's established for some of these guys like Gino especially, who hadn't had a lot of that coming into it, and how that could not only build up their performance and better them as a player, but open the door more for that to continue to progress along the lines of their career. And Coach Carroll, great coach. And there were still, even at the end, a lot of things in there that he does really well. I maintained last week, we were talking about this on the show. I still think that there's a pathway for him to still go find himself to be a successful coach, be it either in the college or the pro level. I think there's a very specific thing that he's got to do. It ain't like do this and that, and over here was this, and change your timeout used, and don't do it was this, and that. Nope. Real specific, kind of one thing almost. It's a very big thing, but specific thing. But he's also, if we have success this year, this team is a contender this season. It's not simply Mike Macdonald being Mother Teresa. It is Mike Macdonald coming in and, yes, fixing what has been broken, but also what has worked continues to work. And I'm not just talking here, and specifically not talking here to schematics or on-field plays or stuff like that. I'm speaking to that culture, what Carroll fostered here prior to this all occurring. Alexander AB, have you seen after the Chargers game, the fans are already calling for Harbaugh's firing? Wow. Los Angeles Charger fans, I guess, are getting jumpy, huh? Who would have ever thought on that? Would they've lost, so we got the Chargers fell to the Rams 13-9. Yeah, I mean, this is a rebuild year for the Chargers, and Harbaugh's not in a hurry, and the fans are going to be in a hurry because they have Herbert there, and so they're all in their feelings a little bit about, we want this done fast. The thing with Harbaugh doing this is he's going to do it right. It's not necessarily that he does it fast. It's that you can count on him to do it. This is why he was my number one guy on my list. Not because he turns this around quick, because I could have faith that it would get turned around, whereas that was going to be a question mark with other coaches. We go, well, this guy's never coached before. Don't know if he's going to be able to come in. Listen, he's really talented. You know what you're getting with Harbaugh, both on the good and the bad side. And the good far outweighs the bad. The way the bad can be a pain in the butt. He's got the punchable face. He's got the prickly pear attitude that can wear on you. But he knows how to get these players to play hard for him. He knows how to win football games. He knows how to manage football games. And he's going to get that Charger organization in the right place. It's just not going to be an overnight venture. Donnie, how you doing, man? Thanks for hopping in the chat. Tay253 says, remember, y'all, it's only the preseason. Exactly. Nitro, this division could definitely be the best division for head coaches. Maybe make that argument for sure. Yeah. Again, it can continue to develop. Just might be. Tony Wright, Zach Harrison, last year's third-round pick, was being taught by Calais Campbell, playing behind him. Then with 3 games to go, Harrison got 2 sacks versus Indy and a sack in each of the last 2 games. He's a big boy, Harrison, former Ohio State kid. Good player coming out, too. So that's good. Always good to have that vet help guy. You know, we're getting the benefit of that right now with a guy like Leonard Williams in house and Chenna Nwosu. These guys help those young guys. They've been around the block. They know how to bring them along, and you think and you hope that they can help to bring them on a little bit faster if you just first had them just out there trying to figure it all out on their own. Grenade Moff at the line corner. Ron Rundaz. We didn't get the W, but the D looked good. McIntosh played well, and Howell continued to impress. Sometimes a loss is not a loss. Agreed. I think it's a game that we weren't really all that worried about the final outcome of it, and it was the coaches were coming to get their analysis and look at the players and the way they wanted to look at them doing certain things, I think. And I think they got informed of that stuff coming out of it. Pew, pew. Shot, shot, shot. Yeah, solid front 7, Tony. Troy Anderson developing too, the kid out of Montana State for you guys. I think a big part of that defense coming forward too. Him staying healthy and developing. Seahawks Gaming says Russell Wilson playing in the preseason games. What time has come to. Playing for his job. Yeah, throw that part in too. Isaac says the Cardinals were definitely one of the most entertaining 4-team wins in league history. That's for sure. Yoda Soda. Oh, I like that name. I was there. I met Tyler Lockett and Tariq Woolen. Nice. Those guys sound like cool guys. That's awesome to hear. Nick says the team is going to win 12 games, and that's not me being a homer. McDonald and Grubb are major upgrades. We have the talent to win a Super Bowl this year, and I don't think it's an exaggeration. I love where you're coming from on it, man. This is my high water mark to where I think the team can get to is 12 wins. And as I was saying at the top of this show today, and it's going to be on my breakdown, do a little 15-minute drop video later on tonight, is, if you're looking for where this twists to, one way or the other, on which direction, if this year is a year of the great variance. New coach, old head coach moving on, turning over, changing systems, probably not going to be good, but it's a very talented team. Really talented team, just really developing. Young guys coming along. New head coach getting his scheme instituted quickly. Getting done fast. Yeah. Schedule not too tough. Little things to start to push the needle over into that side of it for me too. And I don't know if I'll fully land there in the final prediction with me and Bren do our breakdown, but 10, 11 wins at least is where I'm at right now. Yoda says, bro, that sounds exactly like Chuck. Chad doesn't usually Yoda like my Charles Barkley.
They don't like it. They'll start talking about them churros. Them women in San Antonio with them churros. Them big old women, they eat them churros 2 at a time with them churros.
Or GB, I just watched the Dallas kicker kick a 66-yard field goal with room to spare, right down the pipe. He could have kicked a 70-yarder. Meanwhile, Myers out here missing point after touchdowns. Yeah, I hope this missing extra point thing is going to end with preseason here with Jason. I hope he's trying things out this preseason. Can I do a spinny kick on my PATs? I don't know. But he needs to hit these kicks. That's for sure. Or we're going to have to start going for 2 every time. One of the two. But the kickers are going to get better and better. I have a feeling on this kind of thing. Because you do see with the punters over the years that these punters have gotten so good at, used to be you have to decide if you want to get the distance or you want to get the height. And now they can get the distance, the height, and the direction. And they have the bigger legs than ever before. And kickers have kind of tapped out into that sort of 60-yard area for a while. And you're sort of waiting for the guys that might be able to come through to hit the 65 to 70-yarder and pull it off. Seems natural that somebody would come along and eventually have the leg to do that. Hand grenade says, B, Jason was just getting his misses out now before the season. There it is. That's fine, me. Get them all out now. Nick Guzman says, in terms of wide receiver 1 through 4, we are top 3 at worst. Amen. I agree. Seahawks Gaming, every mid-quarterback has their number 1 wide receiver. Drew Locks was Bobo, and Sam Howell is Aesop Winston. They do. These are the course 2 thing you get with that Seahawks Gaming is these are the guys that they tend to throw to on the practice field because the 1s are with the 1s, the 2s are with the 2s, so on and so forth. So I imagine Sam's had as much time as throwing with anybody as he has with Aesop Winston out there. And Aesop's a great receiver. Not a great receiver, but he's a really good receiver for a back-end roster guy. He's got skill. He's got ability. He made some catches today, and even on the 9-route throw that P.J. Walker had, part of the throws that drove me crazy about P.J. in this game where you don't give your receiver a chance, he did everything he could. He body positioned out the corner as the ball was a little late to come down. He kept his feet as much in bounds as he could to the last second. The throw just pulled him out of bounds. And this is going in addition to his really strong preseason that he had last year, where he was good in a couple games, including the Packer game, where I think he just really balled out in that game. Tony says, I'm really looking forward to watching this defense with the starters and the real scheme. Me too, man. Fully unveiled, both sides of the ball. All of it in its glory. I'm right there with you in that I think it's going to look different. It's going to feel different. It's going to be way more explosive, especially talking about offensive side of the ball. And the defense is going to confuse, I think, a lot of offenses when they roll fully with what they're going to do. Hoop Grays, honestly, just want to spend our top picks on O-line. We've been dancing around the idea of addressing it. I'm never against that, Hoop Grays. Dropped a video over on my Hawks Nest Clips channel the other day that was talking just about that in regards to I don't think that there's been really ever a team in NFL history that has invested hugely in their offensive line and came back later on and said, man, we overinvested in our offensive line. We made our offensive line too good. We should have been taking some of that and putting it over here. They all end up coming away, I think, from it going, money well spent, picks well spent, capital well spent. Isaac says, I'm riding with Knight. Could say I'm a Knight rider. Wait, hold on. This is a second. We're at that portion of the show where I'm going to start to have fun with a voice box. We're at that portion of the show. Let me reread that note. Just a second here. Isaac, hold on.
I'm riding with Knight. Should say, I am a Knight rider.
I love the voice changer. Tony, William Leonard. Thank you, William, for 28 months as a Hawks Nest Ring of Honor member. I really appreciate that long-time support to the channel. Lishka is everything we hoped Eskridge was going to be. McIntosh is the blueprint. Myers. Shaking my head. But I'm digging the new kickoff. I'm loving the new kickoff rule too as well. You guys can kind of all feel a little bit why. There's a sense of anticipation. There's a sense of the unknowing. There's a sense of, can my team both maybe bust this out, and are we going to be able to stop this? I feel like there's some holes there. I feel like we got to be careful here. And that's why I like this thing being instituted, is because it's going to allow for the kickoff to be brought back into football. And that's just a good thing. No more automatic plays. That's why we have the PAT move back. As much as it pains me to see this with Myers missing PATs, I still like it there versus at the 2-yard line, because that was an automatic play. Automatic, no doubt about it. You might miss 1 or 2 a year that gets missed. It doesn't make it a real play at that point. And yeah, you're right about the Eskridge and Levishka situation. And these two guys, I don't think were as much battling it out for a roster spot. I think if Eskridge had maintained his health and was productive in this preseason, you might have kept them both. But yeah, Levishka is showing you this is what you wanted to do with Eskridge. And you never really could be in a position to do so just because his body doesn't allow himself to hold up to do it. But Levishka gives you the full meal deal as a gadget guy. Everything you want the gadget guy to do. Fly sweeps, bubble screens, throw a little stop route, throw a little drag route, have him get the field and turn into a runner. He can do all of that stuff and do it really well on top of being a grade A kick returner. And for $1 million, that's pretty good value. Smart value. Smart money spent. McIntosh, unique talent. Different type of talent than any other guys we got at the running back position here in a lot of ways. Showed you with the one-handed stab that he made out of the backfield. Errant throw by P.J. Walker. Stop me if you've heard that before. Slams out there, picks it out of the air, reels it back in, gets down the field, gets a nice little gain out of it. He's got those kind of real nice hands, can run routes out of the slot. Also a really strong, good runner, hard runner. When you want him to ask him to do that, he can go out a read option look. He can go with you under center. You know, he's got some talents to him, and really solidifying himself, I think, in that third down role. Hand Grenade says, B, you believe Pete is going to have some role in the future for coaching here? Does that mean we're going to have the cornerback whisperer and linebacker whisperer in one room? Oh my. I think Pete will eventually, at some point this season, come a little bit back into the fray. I can't guarantee I know that for sure, but if you're making me guess, I'd guess that there's a little bit of that there. I think what I meant by that more hand grenade is that I think that by next season, Carroll is going to aggressively push to find a coaching job. Where that is, I'm not sure, but I do believe he's going to look for a coaching position somewhere. Nick says the trajectory of Russ versus Gino since Russ was traded is truly mind-boggling. It's wild to watch. Yeah, it is wild to watch. It is two different trajectories. One arrow up, the other going down here like this, and just woof. Fall from grace for Russ has been a tough one on the field. It doesn't sound, I haven't had a chance to check out the film yet tonight for him, but it sounds like it didn't go too well from tonight either. Which is tough. Hoop Graces, they said that Pete was moving on to an advisor role. Is he even here? I think that it was a role that's more of, like you put in quotations, one that was more to soften the landing of what was essentially a firing. But that doesn't mean that there isn't, I think, a chance for Pete to come back into play a little bit to help out if the spirit takes him this season. And I've heard some slight whispers this might be the case. But I think long term, he's after the season, he's going to look for a position somewhere. Jay says Harbaugh is not going to work out in the NFL this time. He's too stubborn and stuck in his ways. Could very well be the case, Chase, that does play out that way, and he's getting to that curmudgeon-y age of coaching where we tend to find coaches do get then stuck in their ways. Harbaugh, if he fails at this stop with the Chargers, it will be the first coaching stop that he has had from San Diego to Stanford, San Francisco, to Michigan, that he has failed. This will be the first time. It's the NFL. The NFL. It's hard to win in this league, no doubt about that. But I think that there's also something to be said for he's got a track record here that probably is better to count on than to ignore, in my opinion. And if I was laying money down on this, I think it will. He is going to still try to win with the old way of I'm going to run the ball and that. But defensively, he's not been stuck in his ways with that. They've run different things now, principally than what he ran at Niners. But you're right about the offense being a little in that mode, I would say. Catalyst is Russell Wilson playing in preseason and getting sacked just couldn't be more unsurprising. Mr. Dog, what's our biggest concern position as of right now? Left guard and right tackle. Not sure of what we're going to get in Laken Tomlinson. Not sure if Christian Haynes can really fit to playing left guard, if that's a position that suits him, fits to him. Not sure of Abraham Lucas's health as a tackle right now for the upcoming season. Still not activated off the PUP. It's August 17th. George Fan has his share of injury history and is getting older as a player at right tackle. We've seen with McClendon Curtis, we don't have much behind. Stone can play the right side too, so that does help if you're caught in that mode. But Stone's better as a left tackle than a right tackle. So I would say left guard and right tackle right now. I think the interior inside linebackers coming into preseason, that would have been my answer. But they're playing so well, the backups are, that it seems like we're a little stronger there than we had maybe first thought. Oopgrade says, no idea why we didn't bring in competition for Myers. Undrafted free agents are draining 60-yarders. You're not alone in that wonderment, Hoop Craze. I do have an explanation as to why it is that did not occur. The Seahawks signed Jason Myers to a 4-year deal a few years ago, extension-wise. And they lowered down the first year of his cap hit heavily for a base salary standpoint and gave him a decent amount of bonus money, especially for a kicker. This was going to end up making him essentially a top 3 kicker at the position. Hoop Craze. This was also going to do something else, which was going to make it very hard to get out from under the contract in the first couple of years of the new deal. You are still in the first couple of years of the new deal. It does not make any financial sense in any way, shape, or form to move on from Jason Myers when you look at the brass tacks bottom line numbers of the dead money that you would have to sustain on top of the increase of money that you would have to pay out to bring a kicker in. So it's not to say that I wouldn't like to rather go that way with it, Hoop Craze. It's just that he made his decision, did Schneider a couple years ago on this one. And, you can make an argument of the contracts given out over the last 2 years. He's given a lot of good ones and a lot of smart ones, but that one was one that, in retrospect, was maybe not one of those ones. Reason being, the Jason Myers inconsistency can be keenly tracked throughout the whole course of his career, and that you could kind of see this coming a little bit. But neither here nor there. The bottom line to it is that you're going to have to wait another year. And Schneider knew he was going to have to wait another year to actually tangibly save money by getting out from under him, to not have to eat actually more dead money to get out from under it. Because remember Hoop Craze, you put it all in bonus money. There's a couple of years left of the bonus money. You release the guy. All the bonus money accelerates instantaneously. And then you got to spend the extra money on the next kicker you got to bring in, take the cumulative of that dollar amount, match it up to what Myers currently costs. It's a substantial increase. You're already not sitting on a lot of cap space as it stands at the moment. Chris, just tuning in, missed most of the game, unfortunately, but update me, B. Howell played great. McIntosh was really strong. Howell started out shaky, got it turned around through the next 3 drives. They brought in PJ Walker. Offense went off the rails at that point. Could neither run, really could neither pass. Defense played overall pretty strong game. You were getting into your 3rd and 4th stringers pretty deep by about midway to the 3rd quarter, it felt like. You played very vanilla defensively. And so they kind of were able to dink and dunk you a little bit because, weren't showing them a whole hell of a lot. Backup receivers played well, caught the balls thrown to them. And that was kind of about it. Myers missed an extra point. Michael Dixon kicked well. Punted well as he does. The missed extra points, basically the difference between you tying or not with him in this game. Inside backup linebackers played well again. Tyrese Knight looks like a stud back there. Derek Hall, Mike Morris look good. Miles Adams doing his thing. Power Code, hey, glad to hop on tonight, Brando. Appreciate you as always. How are my fellow 12s doing? I'm having a huge thunderstorm in my area. I'd heard that thunderstorm's going out right now. Crazy. We're quiet here. It's that time of year, though. Nick, I really don't think there was one person on planet Earth aside from maybe John and Pete who could have predicted Gino being a back-to-back Pro Bowler and Russ being on his 2nd team in 2 years. No, I don't think so either. I mean, that's how you pull off the trade returns you get for Russ. It's where his reputation was at. There was multiple teams willing to do that. That's a lot of evaluators, NFL evaluators, to your point, Nick, missing the boat on a reality that is. And I think that there is some things to take away from that a bit. Some of it is to take away that the experts aren't always locked into understanding the reality of the situation. Narratives take place and they can sink in, as we saw in that situation. But you're very right about that. War Chief B, I had a strong feeling that Big Murph was going to hit the ground running. I wasn't worried. My focus from the draft was Tyrese Knight, and I am super pumped at how he's been playing. He's been a good all-around player at that. Solid against the run, solid against the pass. I think you even had a nice little hit in this game. Played a little thunder. Thunder! Thunder! He was dropping a little bit of the hammer in there in this game early on, but compiled himself some tackles. Think he will be probably your highest rated PFF player coming out of this game by my just general eye of things. Maybe they'll get a sample size guy that played like 6 snaps and got over the top of him, but he was really good. Really good. Space has got the Hawks going 10-7. War Chief says no, 13-4. Holy's Hand Grenade says no, 17-0. Earl J says Dixon needs to start kicking our field goals if Myers can't perform. I was joking earlier after we missed the extra point, and I'm kind of joking, but not on the extra points. Why can't Michael Dixon just drop kick the extra points? If your life was on the line and Michael Dixon had to hit 30 straight extra points with the drop kick, or your life was on the line and you had to trust Jason Myers was going to hit 30 straight PATs. One or the other. I want to see one person in this chat tell me that they're putting their money on Dixon or on Myers. You know? I'm just saying, man, Doug Flutie a couple of years ago, he made it look feasible. Big boy Jess, Hawks Nest, did you hear that Mike McDonald had defensive coordinator Alan Dirty call plays for the first half and Carl Scott call plays the second half? I believe first half defense was better than the second half. I had heard that rumor. I haven't been able to confirm or deny on that one, so it could have been the case. It did seem like there was two different play colors going down through the two halves, so that is a little bit proof to pudding of that. It felt that way. We were joking earlier, big boy Jess, that you could also feel a little in the second half with Carl Scott, his influence of Carroll. There was a little bit of that too, but this indeed comes back to that confidence part that I've pointed to with McDonald, being that I'd expected the youngest coach in the NFL looking to institute a scheme that is so complicated, going from one that is so simplified, to want to see to institute that in preseason games so he can iron out those kinks that you would expect will be ever present. But rather than do that through the first two preseason games, Mike McDonald has not only not gone that direction, he's to the point by the second preseason game where he has two different assistant coaches actually calling the plays, when he's going to be the guy calling your defensive plays come day one. If that doesn't speak to confidence, if that doesn't speak to confidence of the onboarding process here in Seattle, I don't know what does. It's impressive. Seahawks Gaming says 90% of our practice squad players will be guys who played us Seahawks, like to reward their own players. Yes, agreed. You also have guys that have been there since OTAs, training camp, bringing in new guys. How functional can you get those guys? How good can you get those guys? How brought along in the process with them on having them learn what they're supposed to do versus the other guys who have it down by that point. There's probably a little bit of an inroad for them to still stay on the practice squad by that place, by that way as well. Warchi says, I'm pretty sure with just 1 week of practice, Dixon can kick PATs. In college, I watched backup wide receivers do a decent job at point after touchdowns, laughing out loud. I just feel like sometimes these kickers, it gets in their head, War Chief, on the PATs. As we've seen with Myers today, kicks all three of his other field goals, kicks some of those field goals with some actual distance to him. But the PATs, when they moved him back from that 2-yard line to the 15-yard line, it just messed the kickers up. You could just feel it. It just kind of something made him uneasy at that point. I feel like Dixon's so laid back. He'd just be out there like, all right, oh yeah, easy. Been doing it since I was a 5-1, since I was a young one. I've been doing that. Seahawks game, if it came down to Darrell Taylor, Mike Morris all day. All day long. I don't think it comes down to those two. I don't, but if it did, then I would. Seahawks Gaming says Chanel did more in 2 preseason games than Percy Harvin and Eskridge did combined. You tell no lies, brother. You tell no lies. Hand Grenade says, play 4-5-7-7 to fully hand grenade playbook. Team shall go undefeated if the team adds brand new minds and enters new age of football. Punter shall kick extra point. Chase, why does Pete still want to coach so bad? He's 1,000,000 years old. The love of the game. He's, there was what do they call it? The big all 12, something Big 12. It's where they take these quarterbacks coming out of high school, going to college, and they're all having to meet up. And I think some of the receivers go out there, and it's like an all-star camp. He was out there this off season, and he was like the last guy off the field. And he loves the game and loves being around the game. And that's when he's at his most alive, I would guess. And that draw there is going to pull him back onto the field. And that draw supersedes everything else, I think, from his standpoint. Which I understand. You love something that much, you love it, man. I get it. Josh Gaming, Pritchett, and GJ James made Mike Jackson and Dre Brown stock go up. Yeah, Pritchett accommodating himself just a little bit better than DJ James did, but yeah, you're still feeling much more solid ground with the other two in front of those guys. They're not pushing those two guys off the roster, I'll tell you that. Isaac, thank you for the $12 donation. I appreciate you for that, Isaac. Sorry, a little bit late on acknowledging it. A little slow on the uptick tonight. My bad. But I do appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And for all of your support to the channel as a member as well. Many donations over. I'm really struggling to come up with my ideal 53-man roster. How many players do you think we keep at each position? We need an expanded roster for soon-to-be regular season 18 games. Yeah, I definitely am with you on the NFL, in my opinion, is long overdue for expanding out the roster. I'm going through something here, Isaac. I'm going to run some numbers here for you real quick. So then let's go with 4 plus 6, and then let's keep 4 there. All right. Hold on. So 4 plus 3, 28. Okay, so let's run the numbers on this really quick. I appreciate the donation. You got 2 quarterbacks. You've got 4 running backs. You've got 3 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen. We've got, I'm going to go with 5 inside linebackers. We're going to go with 4 edges. You're going to go with 6 corners. We're going to go with 4 safeties. Okay. We need still defensive linemen inside. You've got Morris. Oh, let's go inside. Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Hankins, Jaron Reed, Draymond Jones. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. Let me write these out here. Haskins, Jaron Reed. Mike Morris. And let's just put a fill in here for this one of Miles Adams, Cameron Young. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'd go 7 defensive linemen. Basically 7 defensive linemen then. So 7 defensive linemen. Let's add up the numbers here. Then we got 1 kicker, 1 punter, 1 long snapper. So, if we look at it like that, where you've got the For So essentially, by the list I just read you there, so 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 3 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen, 7 defensive linemen, 5 inside linebackers, 4 edges, 6 corners, 4 safeties. That still takes you to with a kicker, punter, long snapper, takes you to 47. So you technically still have 6 other items in there that you can move around. I would estimate that you will probably... Oh, I didn't put wide receiver on there. That's the one I left off. There we go. I was like, man, I know I'm losing off something here. So I think you're going to keep DK, JSN, Tyler, Bobo, Lavishka's 5. There you go. All right, I'll show you this here. It's a good question, by the way. This is something, Isaac, that we want to be considering right now. If I can show you guys here. All right, I need you to be... Should be showing up here. Why isn't it showing up? Oh, there you go. There we go. Give you a background there. So if you look at the background here, Isaac, we got to get to a 53-man roster. You can technically have 55 men on the roster, I think, and then 2 inactive, something like that. So you could throw 2 extra roster spots on top of the 55, but this would be the number that I would expect them to carry as far as their numbers go here. 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 3 tight ends, 5 wide receivers, 9 offensive linemen, 7 defensive linemen, 5 inside linebackers, 4 edges, 6 corners, 4 safeties. 2 other guys you could have on the roster is inactive, so maybe 1 extra safety, but he's inactive, or 1 extra defensive lineman, but he's inactive. But I think something like that, and we're getting pretty mightily close too, Isaac, to the spot where you would be able to start to predict these guys to the spots they're going to go. It's getting pretty close to, I think we can make the calls on this where you can be pretty accurate on this one, I think. So that'd be the numbers I think that we keep at the position with that, in my opinion. And I feel pretty strongly about that, especially in regards to quarterback, running back, tight end, receiver, and even I would say corner safety. I think those are you're going to run 10 total, maybe 1 extra, 1 to 11, but 10 to 11, no more than that, no less than that for sure. And yeah, they need to expand. I think this should be a 70-man roster if you're going to get to 18 games, and maybe it should be 68 active, 70. But the NFL is going to have to do something extra here with this. They can't just be like, keep it the same it is. Just find your way through. Whoever can survive, Isaac. No, it should not be that whoever you can survive with, no one's going to be able to survive. Everybody's going to be beat up and tired and all that. So no, that's not the way to go either. But that's how I foresee it. That's the numbers as I would play it out. Thank you for the 12. I appreciate you for that, though, man. Very kind of you. Radu Turkan, thank you for the $2 donation as well. Says Marquise Blair had a couple of good hits. He did. Yeah, he came in and finished on a couple of nice little whacks. He brings that ability, man. He can still stick guys. You either got that ability or don't naturally to be able to just kind of uncork, even in short spaces, and be able to really deliver a blow. And Blair's always had that despite not necessarily being the biggest of guys. He's just got that ability to lay a hit. And he did it a couple times today. Good spot on your part. I noticed it too on a couple of one was on the run play where he came up at the end of the run play and finished the guy off, and then on the pass play he got a nice little whack in there as well. Impressive to see, because he brings that uniquely, Radu, where I don't think you necessarily have that with the other safeties on this team. You have more kind of the what I might call, Radu, the finesse safeties on the roster right now, more kind of cover guys, less of they can come up there and lay a lick guys. And if you can hit it right and hit it clean, there's still room for those guys in the game. Thank you for the $2 donation, though, man. And good spot on your part. Empowered Code says Cody White's a stud. He's been making plays at joint practices and the games. He has. Showing out throughout practice, man. It's tough for these back-end receivers for me in Power Code because they've all been doing all you'd ask a guy to do. Haven't been bad on special teams. Get open, catch the ball when it's thrown your way. They do it at every turn, showing out throughout practice. But the roster is so stacked on this receiving core. It's so deep on this receiving core. It's just hard to have much hope of just getting onto that practice squad. This is your sort of your best hope. Nick says, I'm so hyped for week 1 versus the Broncos. Me too, man. I can't wait. We are just a couple weeks out now. A mere couple weeks out from the start of the NFL football season. Dun, 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 dun. Megan says, what are the chances we cut Myers after this year? For the 2025 season, Jason Myers is due to be paid oh boy. Okay. So he's due to make Megan about $4.6 million in base salary. He would carry approximately about $2 million in bonus money that's carrying over from that time. So what that means is that his total cap hit between his base salary and bonus is $6.4 million. You can save his bonus, because that's the non-guaranteed part, by releasing him. So you save $4.5 million can be saved by next year. You could also make him a post-June 1st designation next year, which would then allow you to split the dead money up of the bonus by an extra $1 million, approximately, or $900,000. So you could take it up to $5.4 million in savings next year. So, and I would expect, when you talk about the chances of that, I think the chances are going to be pretty high at that point, Megan, because he's going to be carrying a $6.4 million cap hit for a kicker. I'd say very high. Very high are the chances at that point, because the cap number he's carrying is so very high. The money you save is pretty. $5.4 million is a pretty hardy amount to save. And the team is right now over the cap for next year. So there's going to need to be players in addition to this that have to be cut. And you need to save money in some places. So this is one of those, to me, straightforward areas where you can look at it and say, we've not gotten the bang for the buck of the contract we gave up. I paid you to be top at your position. You've not been top at your position consistently. So very good chance at that point. Seahawks Gaming says Jerome Baker might be benched for Knight. Maybe. I think the team likes Knight quite a bit. I think McDonald especially likes in those guys, Seahawks Gaming, their ability to play both the Will and the Mike. He's mentioned it a couple times. Old School says we're after kicker. Well, till next year. We just can't do anything about it right now. Just can't do nothing about it at the moment, that's all. Isaac says, I'm going to our final preseason game next weekend in week 1 versus Denver. If I were a rich man, I'd bitty bum and also go to every single home game this year. So hyped and can't wait. Well, let's go, Isaac. It's going to be a fun game. It'll be a hell of a first opening game there. That stadium's going to have probably a special little bit of an electricity to it there in that opening game against Denver. And congrats, man. Congrats. Hell of an environment to get to go to. Chase, yep, Therese Knight is legit. He's looked really good, Seahawks Gaming, too. I don't want to undersell Knight and how well he's looked. He's surprised the hell out of me. Anthony says, I'm driving from San Francisco to Seattle all on Monday at 5 a.m. 800 miles. Here we go. Let's go, Anthony. It's a fun drive. Not quite as brutal as that San Diego to Seattle drive. That one. Doc Gaming says, I think we found our Fred Warner and Tyrese Knight. I like it, man. I like the comp there. Megan's got us 10-7. Right around the same area. Fortune says, the fact that Knight is legit to me proves that Coach Mack is legit as the linebacker or whisperer. The night he drafted Knight, when there were other high profile linebackers on the board, and we didn't even blink. No, they certainly seemed truly sold on Knight, not settling for him, but this was the guy that he wanted. This seemed to be the guy that in many accounts, by what we heard from Schneider, that he kind of allowed. Who do you want, McDonald? Who's the linebacker you want here? Take your pick. McDonald, I like that guy. That one right there, John. All right, done deal. Sold American. And that's the way they rolled it. Seems like that's the way they rolled it. And you're right. It emboldens you to believe that he is a guy that seems to be able to have a little bit of an inroad towards how to teach these guys up and how to get them quicker along the pathway towards being good, competent players in this league. Shocked me, going back again to the defensive grades from last week, which I'm posting right now by PFF. And I thought kind of a startling thing within that is of your 8 top players graded on the defensive side of the ball last week against that Charger team, where you held that team down to under 10 points, is that 7 of those top 8 players were linebackers. And a good many of those guys were inside linebackers at that. Knight, O'Connell, Dodson, Richardson. Speaks to, I think, like you say on your bottom line point, of how good he is on teaching those guys up and bringing them along. Earl says, I would trust Dixon more on the punts. Daryl says 30 times though, I'd go an actual kicker than a punter. I mean, I was just on the practice field, Daryl, and I was down there at training camp, and it's before the players are getting out there, and Dixon's out there he's already practicing it out there. I'm telling you, man. He's already out there doing it. He was doing these rugby style kicks out there where I could see him. He was like tapping into his old rugby stuff. Remember, he's Australian. He's been doing that bounce stuff since he's like they have the babies do it there. Megan attests to this. They actually just bounce it for the babies and tell them to kick it. So it's almost like walking for them down there. See, Megan's confirming it. She's Australian. You know she wouldn't lie to you on this, Daryl. Daryl, have you seen Myers kick PHEs? It's an emotional roller coaster. Orchie says 13-4 in reality, 21-0 in my dreams. Let's go. Jeffrey Tuttles, McDonald talks about the different play callers in his press conference. Oh, okay. So we got confirmation then, Jeffy. Thank you for that. Sometimes I get told stuff, Jeffy, that I'll get informed stuff and then look like a jackass because I just took it wholeheartedly full bait, and then somebody will come back and be like, that's not even close to the truth, dude. I'll be like, ah, damn it. So I always got to be careful. But good to hear. All the more reason that he's being elusive with it, is McDonald a little bit then. A little elusive. Got you covered, New England. Young Guns says, did PJ Walker get a single first down in the second half? Yeah, but not many of them. Not but a couple of them. And it wasn't pretty, young guns. Chris says expand the roster in 2 bye weeks, especially if they add another game. Yeah, agreed. I think it's nothing but would be good for the product, better for the product, more viewership if you get a better product. The NFL, of course, kind of fat and happy. They're like, we can't get any fatter. We can't get any happier. Yeah, they're sitting there just a trail of a buffet line behind them in money, so they're just falling on the floor. Power goes the way Pumpkin is looking at the screen, gets me. He's a feisty one. He's like, I disagree, Smart. He disagrees a lot with me. Jason says PJ has mastered the art of throwing the high ball out of bounds. He sure has. Oh man, I hated watching some of those throws. Like, come on. Fortune says Coach Mack is playing mental warfare with that. It's only preseason. He doesn't want teams to catch on to his defense yet. So he has 2 different coaches call plays. Oh yeah. He's just going, I'm not going to show you guys anything. You already know it's a new coach, different personnel. You already don't know what you're going to get. And you're not going to know what you're going to get until it counts, until it matters. I can appreciate that. Certainly makes it hard on Denver week 1. They're going to be just in there just kind of trying to figure things out probably through the first quarter and a half. William asks, what's going on with the running game? You're not getting a lot of push into the second half. I thought they actually had some holes in the first half for McIntosh at times. But when you got in the second half, especially into the third and fourth stringers, you didn't really just get very much push at all up front. And is what it is on that, you know. I think when you don't have a passing attack that's able to do much of anything on the other side of it, in addition to that, it's not converting third downs. That then also kind of buttons down the running game a little bit in addition to that. Or it's not just then the running game failing or not doing as well or opening up those holes. It's also that you're not getting a lot of attempts to do it because the passing attack just can't convert. That's the way it kind of looked to me. But it was good early on. There's some holes there early on, but not sustained. Or she says, I'm not even joking either. Let's put Bobo in a quarterback instead of PJ Walker in the next fourth quarter of the preseason. I've got $100 that says he throws a touchdown and runs a 4 another. It may be. Maybe. Grandizer, how you doing, man? Good to see you in the house, brother. Brando, say it, brother. Say it. Go Hawks. Go Hawks. Young Gun says at least Howell can move the ball. He can. You see, there's a difference between a Howell and a PJ Walker and their ability level and what they can do on the football field. Isaac says, Hawks Nest, you are both my compass and my North Star as a 12. Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Great question, too, on the roster thing, because that's definitely something we got to start putting together on where we projecting this to go based on the performance we've seen here in the preseason and what we're hearing from camp. Young Gun says, I'm cool with Howell as a backup, no doubt, but PJ Walker, holy, that man is a dud. Yeah, you're not going to want to go to him. And the good news is if you usually get to pretty much any third quarterback, Young Guns on a roster, it's hard enough to find a good enough guy on the front line. It's damn hard to find a good backup. It's kind of mission impossible to find the third guy that's good after the first two. And you're running into that here a little bit with PJ Walker. If you have to go to the third quarterback on your roster, chances are you've got bigger problems. And hopefully we don't have to do that. But he also is not doing a lot, showing anything as far as development. What's kind of disconcerting, I think, about his performance here in preseason is just he doesn't even look like kind of the somewhat functional quarterback he looked like last year. He looked a little bit lost out there. Seahawks Gaming, is Jonathan Hankins really that good that he didn't play a snap in 2 preseason games? Yeah. Team's trying to keep their nose tackle situation probably pretty clean. They're really stocked to the gills with 3 techs, but they're not as well stocked with nose tackles. Cameron Young has been quiet, injured. So if Cameron Young's not playing, you have Jaron Reed and you have Hankins as your two nose tackles on this team that are healthy right now. Williams can play some nose tackle. Murphy can play some nose tackle. But that's really not the position you want those guys playing, to me, the majority of their snaps. You want them in as a 3-tech. So this is a little bit of like what they're doing with George Fant. You have a veteran. He's played a lot of football, probably not as much in need of preseason. You want to keep them a little protected so that they're fully 100% healthy day one. Also understanding that because they're healthier guys, you're trying to preserve the tread on the tires a little bit longer through the course of the season with that. Isaac says Bobo also provides color commentary simultaneously. He can do it all, man. He's a one-man band. Grandizer Brando dropped the phone line. Opinion of the 12th man faithful. Oh, I'll say go Hawks anytime. Anytime. I don't have to wait on that. Anytime's a good time for go Hawks. Grandizer. Anytime. Grandizer says, Brandon, what are the chances that Megan gives up here live stream of her projected Seahawks 53 and Moss? Brando, what are the chances that Megan, Aussie 12 Gawk Roger, gives us her live stream of her projected 53-man roster? Help a bloke out. Her live stream. I don't know if she's got her final 53 yet. I haven't checked with her on that. I think she's probably working through, like me, still working through her final list. Got the quarterback figured out, got the tight ends figured out, got the receivers figured out. I think I got the corners figured out, but safety, not sure. Defensive line, not totally sure. Still a little bit of a waiting game, guessing game. I know, Katie. I know. No, good girl. Oh, the faithful line is what you're saying. Go Hawks. Yeah, there we go. I was like, dropping the faithful line. Zord 76, Seahawks will beat the Broncos by 7+ opening day regardless. Yeah, I've got it as a 10+ win right now. 10-point win. I think Vegas has got us with 7 points right now, though. Charles says, haha, okay. He's good at it, man. Those rugby kids, man. They got those iron feet. Brando does look tired. Look at his eyes. It's a tough one, man, you know. We're an hour about 7 into streaming. War Chief, thank you for the $2 donation. This is from now on, Bobo will be known as Seahawks Jesus. The Messiah. The Messiah wears a headband. Forever be known. He will lead you to touchdown paradise. One impression spot on, unless you're Kraft. He's the rough. Daryl, have we talked about how bad Stone Forsythe was yet? He is bad, even for backup. He's got a little bit of that backup holding on for dear life thing from my perspective, Daryl. he's going to come out of this game probably fairly well rated to where he was last week. And it's ups and downs. It's good, bad. He pulled, I think they've got him at like a 64.4, which would be about an average grade off of last week. Probably lands about the same place in this game, Daryl. He's got some moments where you have to avert your eyes and go, oh, that was not a great block. He's never going to be a real good people mover in the ground game. But he serves the position and role of being a swing tackle, a guy that can play both left tackle and right tackle and can hold on for dear life there. And whereas dear life is not a real big benchmark to lay as a level of performance for a player, I'd say that it can get much worse. Jason Peters, for instance, last year, Jay Curhan last year, they showed you how it could get worse. McClendon Curtis in this preseason, Daryl, over at right tackle, shows you how it can be worse. So I don't disagree that this is not a starter in this league. This is not a guy with any sort of future as a starter in this league. He's a guy that is a swing tackle, that will be a guy that you want to play as infrequently as possible. But I think he can at least serve in that role marginally if you need him to do that, and you want your frontline guy's starter health to hold up, and you don't want this guy starting a majority of your games, a little bit like you almost had to have him do last year. But he's also played a lot of football at this point, going into year 4 and heading into a contract year. But yeah, I agree. There's ups, there's downs with it, with what he brings. Radu, thank you for the $2 donation. I appreciate you for that, Radu. Thanks for the double dip. He says, am I going to any Seahawks games this year? Sadly, no. No, I won't be. And it's really because of anything else, Radu, just that these game days like this are the biggest days of the channel of the year. And we have days on this channel that are not the biggest of the year. We have whole swaths of 2 and 3 months in the depths of May, June, and July where the growth really dials down and we really get not a lot going on, even if I'm generating a lot of traffic as far as videos and live stream shows go. So it's kind of informed me after doing it through 5 years now that I have to be striking while the iron's hot. And that means going live on game day and making sure I'm there for the play-by-play and the post games. And tonight after we go live, I'll be going over and doing the little 15-minute recap video I'll post up to the channel probably about 3 or 4 in the morning. And it's kind of just has to be what it is to get kind of the maximized point of what you do, unfortunately, with it. I'd love to be able to go down there and do it. It'd be great to maybe even live stream down there in person or something if there's a way to do that. But yeah, it's going to be unfortunate. The unfortunate part of this channel's existence, unfortunately, probably means that me, at least for the now and near long future, there'll probably not be me in stadium watching the game because it's just too big of a day for growth for the channel. Sean Thompson, hey Beavis. He said, shot your wad. Isaac says, I've heard a Bobo a day keeps the defense away. I've heard the same. Megan Hawksnest, I have 84 ready for fantasy waiting for the final call after preseason. There we go. You're locked in there, Megan. Your fantasy locked in. Nejitsu Trigger says, Jake Bobo, a.k.a. Mini Jimmy Graham. There we go. Slim Jimmy. That's what we call him, Slim Jimmy. Or Jesus from now on, whenever I stub my toe, hit my thumb with a hammer, or my children piss me off, I'm yelling Bobo. Bobo! I'm going to yell it like Khan in Star Trek 2. Khan! Bobo! Isaac, no, go away. He's not your Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. He's a naughty Bobo. Yes, we got the Chuck Norris Bobo memes breaking out here in the chat. You can have the ball when you practice from my cold dead Bobos. All I want to do is kick your. I think I got you last year, Megan, didn't I? I believe I took you down in fantasy last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I do believe that was the way that played out. I do believe it was true. And there's going to be a replay of it again this year, unfortunately. Dale says, good thoughts. I agree then. Well, thank you, Daryl. I appreciate you, man. We'll probably put a little button here on this and start to kind of wrap this one up. I want to just do kind of a quick little in and out. We got a couple hours in on the stream here today, and I do have to still go over there and do that little wrap-up video deal that I want to get knocked out over on the other side of it and uploaded tonight before the night is through. Good time right now to thank the sponsor of the show, Underdog Fantasy. You can take advantage of the code today of Underdog. Use the code NEST, and they will match you up to 100% of your first deposit up to $100. So $100 from me to you through using this code on Underdog Fantasy app. They have some great parlays ongoing here throughout. You can get in still in the baseball season. Hey, feeling bad about the Mariner downfall? Feeling like, dang, this sucks that they're going down like this. Well, maybe go win some money on the back of the downfall from them then. At least you can feel better about that. At least your pocketbook can be a little bit bigger. We got some seasonal lines out there as far as over-under on yardage. Gino get over 3,600 yards this year passing? Yeah, I tend to think so. Can DK get over 900 yards receiving this year? Yeah, I think so. Put your parlays together in that way. Go win yourself some money and get $100 extra up to on your first deposit of $100 from me using the code NEST, N-E-S-T, or to go directly through the site, through the link down below in the description section of this video below. There are limitations that do apply in the state of Washington, but if you are in a casino in the state of Washington on their network, you can use the app in full. And if you're outside the state of Washington, in many of the other states, you can use the app in full. Grandizer says, Brando, I'd rather watch you live play-by-play. You're more informative. Call a great game. Really get fans on the edge of their seats. Solid and righteous content. Well, thank you, Grandizer. I think that's another part of it I probably should have mentioned there to Radu on that, is that it is indeed a big growth day that I got to maximize that. But I do have to admit to your point on this as well. I love doing the play-by-play. When we get in the heat of it, especially, and it's counting for real, and it's something I really want to try to get better at. I want to keep improving at. I'm trying to look at it when I do it of how I can improve and stay in the pocket and getting better at it. But I love doing it. It's really fun to call the games and do the play-by-play, and that'd be something I would miss out heavily on by going back and checking out the game, because it has become such a common part of this channel. And I do agree. I think the feedback has been pretty good on that. The feedback's always good, but good on these kind of streams that are the play-by-plays like that. So yeah, I think that's another reason why. And who knows, maybe we'll get the Hawk organization to carve me a little spot there in the stadium, and I can just do the live play-by-play from within the stadium, and then we get the best of both worlds at that point. The best of all the worlds. Grandizer says, one day I wish Christopher Walken would try to call in on your stream. What a treat that would be. Why do you mock me, Brandon Kane? You think my voice is funny? Is that it? You laugh. Ha. Ha. Why? I don't think it's funny, Brandon. It's my voice. You like it when people make fun of you? No. Stop it now. I've had enough. Everyone send me the clip. Listen, this guy making fun of you. Everyone does me. I'm me. I do me, not you. Do you. Find your thing. You do. I'm getting late in the stream. It's getting late in the stream, folks. All right. Maybe one day we'll get walking on in. I'd love to have a conversation. But would I have the balls to do walking to walking? That would be the question. That would be the question. Bobo loves go. The Bobo Chuck Norris jokes have not stopped. I dig that about you guys. I dig that about you. All right. Well, we'll probably put a little bit behind it. Any last questions, pop them on in the chat here. But other than that, we will go ahead and bounce this over. Last couple of notes in today. I'll be getting the wrap-up video out to you guys here for the game today here real soon this evening. And then this week for the stream schedule, we've got, I'm heading over to the Hawk Zone actually on Monday. So I'm going to be doing a guest appearance over on Monday on the Hawk Zone. I'll be, of course, be doing the weekly roundup show on Wednesday. We'll get the B&B show on Thursday this week in addition to that. So still a lot of action on deck for this upcoming weekend. We'll try to get a couple of uploads on the channel in addition to that, if I can get it done. If I can do that thing and get it handled on that. Thank you guys today for watching. If you guys could for me, please, today, slam, bam, jam, damn that like button for me. If you haven't already, if you can just hit that, it does help the channel out. It does help the channel grow. I do appreciate it tremendously. So just hit that little like button on the way out if you guys could for me. Help this thing show up on the algorithm. Help push me out to the masses as you guys do. See if we got any last questions just to make sure. Megan, Isaac is good chopping it up with you guys. He says, this has been fun, y'all. Love me, my 12s and Bobros. Let's effing go. Sean Thompson says, I have no life. On here talking about Bobo and loving it. You should be loving it. He's awesome, man. Sean says, Bobo will probably fly if he wanted. He just doesn't need to. Isaac says, Bobo discovered fire. Megan says, Dixon never played rugby B, Aussie rules. Well, some kind of, he kicked the ball a lot as a kid. That's my thing. With accuracy and power. And Power Code, you have a good night. Thank you, Rob Bournes. Appreciate you. Very kind for saying that. Hand Grenade, you have yourself a good one. How often are you going to do Bleacher Report for regular season B? That's to be undetermined. I'm unsure on that. So you make up one other point I just want to make on this is I would really like to be able to have a chance to do this Bleacher Report thing all year because they do give you a little bit of a payment for doing the guest appearance, which goes very nicely to the channel and being able to sustain this. Last week, we did a Bleacher Report appearance. I'll be doing another one next week. Based on kind of how our viewership is on this Bleacher Report stuff, will determine whether I can do it during the year. So if you go to my Twitter, I linked to the Bleacher Report link from last week on the game wrap-up. I know it's from a week ago, but if you guys go and click that link and can just watch that through for 30 minutes, it does really well to their algorithm, shows up really well to their algorithm, helps me lock that in the long term. No big if you guys can't do it. You have to download the app, so I get it. It's kind of a thing. But if you guys get a chance, it's a little thing, but a big deal. If you just go to my Twitter, hit that link for the Bleacher Report link, and that will help out them in the returns of saying, hey, he's getting the viewership on this, so we want to keep him coming in here, and his people will come in there and watch, and they'll come with him over onto this side of it. So we'll see based on how the numbers will go in this month, but I will be back there doing the Bleacher Report breakdown next week. So we'll be back at it in a week on that. Rob says, wow, you said my last name correctly. That's amazing. It's a hit or miss with me, Rob, on the butchering names thing. I either land it perfect or I fall off we just got done with the Olympics. What do they call that thing? I fall off the deal and I land on my head and I break an ankle and I snap the wrist and it's all brutal at that point. So I either hit it purely and true and land it, arms out extended, super proud of myself, or it's just me and a pretzel. It's one of the two when I'm trying to pronounce names. No middle ground. Absolutely no middle ground. Megan says, I can't get the app here on the Bleacher Report. No worries there, Megan. I understand. There are some, it's all app. You got to kind of download and stuff with that. So I get it. Totally get it. Totally get it. Well, thank you for watching tonight, guys. Great little stream here. We'll be doing this throughout the course of the year. Play-by-play during the season, during the game. A little maybe Bleacher Report. Back to the post-game breakdown discussion here with you guys for a little bit. Back in a couple of days. It's a little bit of a loss. You lose by 1 point. It's preseason. Not the biggest of deals. We'll bounce back here. The Seahawks team. Still a lot to feel good about in this preseason from Mike Macdonald. Things are moving along swiftly as far as this onboarding process. He doesn't look in over his head as the youngest head coach in the NFL. So much more to walk away from, to be encouraged by from the Seahawks team so far in this early part of the year than to be discouraged by. And no super huge major injuries, no decimation of positional groups. Always something you want to be paying attention to as you lead up into the season as well, because that can upend a lot of NFL teams just in its own. Go check out Minnesota right now if you're looking for an example of that one. Back soon, but not going to make you guys wait for too long. I appreciate you guys watching. Much respect to all of you guys. Thank you for all of the donations in the chat. Radu Turkan multiple times over. Isaac, every stream in there dropping the donos. Tony Borges Silva, thank you as well. War Chief, you guys are awesome. Jeffrey Thistle, thank you so very, very, very much. You guys are great, and I really appreciate you for all that you guys do. Back soon. Much love to you guys. Please don't forget, though. By God, please don't you ever forget. Loss gets some people wavering. No wavering tonight. No wavering over a preseason loss. No wavering over a preseason loss by 1 point. We're doing nothing but flying high, dreaming big, and living large. So please, by God, don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.